everyone. I hope everyone is safe and well. Hello, hello. My name is Taranica Williams, and I will be your moderator this evening. Um, I have been an actor, an educator, a fight and intimacy director with schools and universities and theaters across the Triangle and the country. I've also been playing Dungeons and Dragons online for almost a year now, and I play Asura Vapula, a tiefling rogue assassin on the Everwind Chronicles, which streams on Mondays on twitch.tv/happyactionfuntime. So that's very fun. It is my absolute greatest pleasure to introduce our panel this evening, and in no particular order. I am going to introduce tonight Jesse Gephardt, a member of the Triangle Theater community since 1998. Jesse has been an actor, a director, and an occasional producer on over 75 productions in the Triangle. Jesse is new to the gaming world after discovering Animal Crossing New Horizons in March of this year. Soon after, he found Pablo the Drag Queen, an Australian streamer who at the time was streaming ACNH. The following 9 months have been a crash course in gaming and streamers, as well as helping build and foster an international community. So thank you, Jesse, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Our next panelist is Alan Mahl. Alan is a playwright and writer with 12 years of writing experience for the stage and digital media. Favorite productions of his plays include Tales and Fermentations at Seed Art Share, Everscape, the New York City Fringe 2015 and Sonorous Road Theater productions, Too Late at Carborough Art Center 10 by 10 Festival, and Framing the Shot at Sonorous Road Theater. We're doing it. Alan also worked as a video game writer and voice director on the MMORPG Fallen Earth and the serious games GE 2050. I think I said all that right, and Uptick. His favorite video games include Resident Evil 4, the Fallout series, and Spec Ops the Line. So thank you, Alan, for being here. Our next panelist is Mickey Marvel. Mickey is the founder of the Raleigh Community Meetup powered by Twitch, the official networking group for streaming enthusiasts in the Triangle. She's also the former marketing and communications director of Theater Raleigh and the current virtual technical director for Pineapple Shaped Lamps in Wilmington, North Carolina, Impro Theater in LA, and the Women's Theater Festival here in the Triangle. She streams weekly at twitch.tv/Mickey Marvel. So thank you, Mickey, for being here.
Thank you.
And our final panelist for this evening is Larry Meek. Larry is the co-founder of Happy Action Funtime, a channel on Twitch that focuses on storytelling through gaming. He's also Valen Wren, human monk on the Everwind Chronicles. And even though he doesn't play as much as he used to, he still considers himself an avid gamer. You can usually find him messing around with friends in Sea of Thieves or playing Batman Arkham Asylum for the 15th time. Mm-hmm. So thank you, Larry. And thank you all. Thank you for so much for everyone for being here tonight. This is going to be a relatively informal discussion. We're going to kind of just talk about different topics as they relate to theatricality and gaming. We have a wide variety of backgrounds in this panel, so I'm really looking forward to the conversation and what arises. But this panel, again, as I said, is designed to be more of an open forum discussion. We have kind of general topic points that we'll be looking at to kind of help us keep organized. Those broad categories are gaming as art, gaming as community, and gaming as inspiration. So I would definitely encourage for those watching on any of the streaming services tonight, if a topic of conversation comes up that inspires a question, please feel free to write your question in and we'll have that sent to us so that I'll kind of shoot some questions out from the audience as we're going, as we have our panel discussion. Questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, feelings, or ideas.
Thank you for putting this together. It's great to be here.
Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I am a late bloomer to the gaming community, but since I've been here, it's been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed it.
Getting a crash course.
It is. It's definitely a crash course. Jesse, I'm sure you feel the same way as me.
I had no idea. I had no idea that this like whole facet of the universe existed. I had only heard about it in folklore. And,
In myth and legend.
yeah, exactly.
Jesse, I'm surprised your spouse didn't get you into it sooner. Eddie's a pretty big gamer, isn't he?
No, I know. Yeah. So Alan and Eddie actually like worked together at one point. Eddie was doing graphic designing for a video game that Alan was working on. Yeah, I mean, you know, I always like felt like I wanted to be a gamer, but it just wasn't the thing that kept me. You know, like I tried several different times, several different like Sega Genesis, you know, like, you know, I was doing the thing. And it took a pandemic and Animal Crossing for me to like finally tap into the thing. And it's been really interesting, fun, crazy, wild, but like never dull. That is for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, what about you, Mickey? I know that you've been streaming before all of the New World Order, but
yeah, and gaming my whole life. And it's funny because even when I started streaming, I at first I didn't think I would want to play games on stream, but it actually, speaking to like Jesse, how like finding time is hard, right? Like, and that's true for like any hobby, but I certainly I started streaming games because I was like, oh, wait a minute here. I create art a lot of the time, and art has like such a great place in streaming. But you know what I could do? I could use this as an excuse to play games. So I just really wanted to like echo, like, I understand like finding time for games can be hard.
What about you, Larry? What about the streaming world? And
I mean, as far as video games go, I've been playing video games since the original Nintendo, and playing like Duck Hunt and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and all those games, and kind of just progressed through the consoles. Got the Sega Genesis, the N64, the PlayStation, just kind of kept going. And the streaming thing really didn't catch me until I got into D&D and found some streamers on Twitch that do D&D, like Critical Role, because that's the big one.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, you know, I enjoy playing D&D. We've got my friend and I, Doug, the guy that DMs for us. He's got a really cool story. Let's try it out. See what happens. Get some people together and play. And it has been a whirlwind adventure since we started December of last year. Yes.
Yeah, in full transparency, Larry and I played D&D together.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
So I had played maybe 2-3 times total in my whole life before I got roped in. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Oh yeah.
An absolute blast. I mean, Alan, I know you are no stranger to the gaming world.
Oh man, yeah, and all this talk of D&D is making me realize how much I miss my D&D crew, because like we had one of our core members, like Sam Corey, moved away to Virginia, and so like it's been harder to. And also, a little thing called coronavirus has made it hard for everybody to get together and play and everything.
Yep.
I admire all of you for streaming your D&D exploits. I think I don't know if I'd want everyone to be able to.
Yeah, I'm not an entertaining D&D player, right? Like, I'm not, especially like I'm very like I just want to run in and like smash. Yeah, it's not always entertaining. So applause to you all.
Yeah,
listen, I'm going to say it's not always entertaining either. Sometimes it's just painful to watch.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's a lot of us making mistakes. Yeah, and that's about it. Yeah, just making mistakes.
Yeah,
One bad decision after another.
Comedy in it is I want people. My group is not made up of people that love improvisation, but they improvise great when it's just their friends because they know no one's going to judge them for it. And I worry that if a camera was on, they'd be like, "All right, it's showtime now. I have to like."
Yeah,
that would not be enjoyable.
Let me get into character. So that segues kind of nicely into our first general topic, which is gaming as art. So kind of what are people's opinions about the gaming design elements, story that themselves, would you consider that a form of art in the same way we consider film and TV and theater art? So I will start with that. Like, what are people's opinions about gaming as an art form?
I immediately want to talk about Stardew Valley. So, look, if nobody's played Stardew Valley, it is like a farm simulator game. I mean, similar, kind of like similar vibes, I want to say, to like Animal Crossing and those games where like you're really just chilling. But it was made by one person. We're talking the muse, like everything in that game was made by one human. So I will 100% say like that gaming is art, and that we should treat it like equal to art. And of course we can get into a whole thing about like creating a game versus streaming a game versus playing a game with your friends. And that also gets into like our intention of art as well. But short answer, yes. It's art.
Yeah, and the story behind the development of that game is crazy too, because he worked on it for like 5 years. And the thing that if you ever read the book Blood, Sweat, and Pixels, they have a whole chapter getting into the depth of the guy interviewing the creator of Stardew Valley and how he made it. But the thing I really took away from it is his romantic partner loves him so much because she supported him so throughout the entire thing. Like when he was making beans as like a, we're in a movie theater while he was working on this game. She kept helping him pay the bills and stuff for years until like this game was a success, and he never knew it was going to be. He just made it because he wanted to.
I mean, that sounds to me like every theater production I've ever been in. Like that's labor of love.
It's very true. I mean, some of the games that, like, there's a whole, I mean, my world has just been like so opened to, because when you start with Animal Crossing at 36, the games that Pablo is playing with, like Pablo, the streamer that I watch every single day, that I am their admin, like I work on the daily with them, like they introduced me to this whole world of like the fact that streaming and video games can be art and artistic and beautiful, and the games that they play, especially now the story games they're playing, are ethically amazing, like huge unashamed themes, like immigration, and they just played Life is Strange 2, which is this like sweepingly amazing. So I was so blind to it, but like the people that work on these games, it's such a labor of love. Like it is no less an art form than anything else that we do.
What I really like about it as an art form, and I do believe that games are art, is that it forces the audience to be an active participant in the story making.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, it is a very extreme version of Sleep No More. Like, you're in there.
Yeah.
Although less stairs.
You're helping.
Yeah. A lot less stairs.
Yeah, a lot less stairs.
Larry, what are your thoughts? Because I mean, I think of the group here, you've been definitely probably gaming socially much longer than I know, at least for me.
That's probably a stretch. I grew up playing games kind of just by myself. That was my like cathartic getaway, kind of, because I'm an introvert. That's my like just process time. I tried streaming games for like a hot minute and didn't find myself enjoying that as much. It was when I got into playing like RPGs and again, kind of the tabletop games and exploring that medium as an art form and storytelling, that it really clicked. Like it really became an interest of mine to see where I could take it and see what kind of feedback we would get from the audience, like as much of an audience as we have right now. But I think the interaction part is one of the coolest parts about the whole experience.
Well, that brings up an interesting point, because I know that Mickey, you had brought up about the intention of art. Where kind of does that line live, where you've got the artists creating the game that someone else consumes and is the consumption of that part of the art, versus those who then go off and stream, so they've created their own kind of sub art on another art. Like it gets very meta very quickly of like whose art is whose. Did I lay a big one on? Sorry about that.
No, it is a big one. And no, I mean, it is a big one. I mean, I mean, at least to talk about like from the participant perspective. I mean, I would definitely say that contribution is kind of a key part of creating art. So like, if you're just playing a video game, like you are definitely consuming that art, but not necessarily making art yourself. Even though, I mean, also I've seen some crazy things in Minecraft. That is also like that is art, friends. So yeah, like it does get super like wavy and super like weird to find that intention. And it can also be hard, like speaking back to like what Larry was saying earlier, when you said that like you were streaming video games and you're like, this isn't like a passion, right? So like you realized that while you loved gaming, like being out there and on for like 3 hours at a time was maybe not for you. A follow-up question, do you do stand-up at all, or do you think you'd be only an improv person? Because you tend to be one or the other, right? And so usually folks that prefer improv, they like the team element of that. Anyway.
Oh, so we had a quick question. When they say streaming D&D, are we talking the online video game or streaming playing the pen and paper game? Yes. I will say that the line has been merged over the years because of systems like D&D Beyond, which allows you, and like Roll20 and some other online systems that allow you to take what was the pen and paper Dungeons and Dragons, and you can kind of meld it into a virtual world of playing online. I know for myself personally, when we're playing, we use D&D Beyond to kind of keep track of our character sheets. And then we use Roll20 to keep track of our maps. So that way we can, even though we're all in different locations right now, we can all see the same thing. So we can see what the map looks like. We can communicate with each other via streaming video. But that's what I'm talking about particularly.
Yes. But still rolling physical dice, because we have to be able to dice shame at some point.
That is true. We still roll physical dice so we can dice shame each other. Sorry, I got tangential about that question. But I wanted to dive then back into kind of gaming is such an unusual art form compared to some of our other art media. And I know for some of us, we work in art in different areas. Whereas like, a film is made and the way in which anyone can engage with the film is just to sit and consume it. Certainly they can join the fandoms, but the actual content itself is insular and of itself, similar with TV. Theater obviously is a slightly different medium in that we can create devised interactive pieces of theater. The audience used to be in the room with you. So there was a bit more of a direct feedback loop that could occur in the art. But gaming is unique in that it has both consumption elements where it's already built, the story's already made, you just have to wander through it. And then there are games that are so open world in concept that you can really take what the structure is and make it entirely your own. And I wonder what that does for a creative world. Like how does that feel as being able to have such an interactive element to a piece of art?
Yeah. I think about it, if you think one axis that works well is the axis of control versus freedom. And if you're the kind of artist that control is very, very important to you, making games might not be your bag, because you're essentially handing over the framework of what you've made to people that might not follow the rules and do all kinds of crazy things. If you like control, you should probably be a filmmaker, or better yet, a novelist, because no one can tell you what to write. But I think about games that want to play around with that. There was one that I played a couple of years ago called Super Hot, and the premise behind this one was you were hacking into this like a world where like all of these like red entities were trying to fight you, but the game would move in slow motion unless you chose to speed up, and then everything else would speed up at the same time, and you had to fight and kill all of these random red guys with no faces. And the game was trying to make a point about like agency by saying like, haha, player, you will do whatever we tell you. If we tell you to kill these guys, you'll kill them. If we tell them they're good, you're going to still kill them. That's how you play the game. You do whatever we want. And all I could think was like, well, I could turn the game off if I want. I don't have to play this.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else? I was like, you got
Mic drop.
It's like we're gonna kill people. Yeah, tell me more. Anyone else have kind of thoughts of that merged world of art?
I mean, gaming has gotten so. A lot of the video games that come out now, especially the narrative-based video games like Uncharted or Tomb Raider, things like that, I found myself watching like friends play those games and being just enraptured by the story being told. It's gotten so well done. The voice acting, the story, all of like the graphics, all of it coming together and creating this just piece of art that you can't take your eyes off of. And like when they stop playing, you're like, oh, I wasn't done watching that. So it's just a lot different than playing, like I said, Duck Hunt back in the 80s and whatever, Tron and all those games that were just they were strict gameplay.
Yeah, and that kind of brings up all of these things. Kind of bring up two things for me, but I'll center the one about like watching people play games, because that is something that I really enjoy, and I enjoyed it actually before Twitch. But Twitch was really when I started to like figure out what that meant, right? Like there are just some games, and it's partially due to my own skill level, or it's partially due to just like I definitely want it for that narrative element. But honestly, I kind of just want to sit there and watch somebody else go through it. I don't want to personally go through it myself. And part of that's because of the immersion, right? Mm-hmm. And you can't do that with movies. You're not like sitting there watching somebody like read a book and you're like, yeah, I'm getting a lot out of this.
Look at that page turn.
So yeah, I don't know, just happy.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like thinking of the person or the vessel, I guess, through which you're consuming the game, because when you're watching a streamer, I feel like my thought is that you're not really like, you're watching the game, but there's a reason why you're watching this stream, is because you like this person through which you consume the game. Especially if there's someone who is very reactive or responsive to the chat, and like they're very kind of dialogue oriented, which is something that I'm literally not just like here to pump up Pablo, but like Pablo's literally like my key into this world. So everything I have learned through this. But like Pablo is a very responsive person in the chat, and they build that rapport. So like you don't even realize that like the way they speak to you feels familiar, so that you feel like you belong there, and like that's like the whole facet of what Pablo really is trying to do, is like foster and build a community that's built around love and acceptance and unity and all of that like utopia stuff. But also Pablo is like super interested in changing the face of the gaming world, and that out queer streamers on streaming sites are not really a big thing, not a very prominent thing. And so they're hoping to change the conversation of gaming and who can consume games and what it means to consume and all that. So that's how I have learned to take in gaming, is through someone, because I like the games. I think the games are beautiful and amazing and wonderful, but like I just don't have like the resources. I don't have the thing on which to play the game. But I also I don't know if I have the patience.
Valid.
Yes.
I feel similarly to that, but I think that's also very interesting, because it's that it becomes its own form of art to experience the game that was built, that is in and of itself art, through another person who by their existence has fostered some sort of artistic engagement either through passive viewership or through active engagement in community, which I think is very interesting because it's like some people are more inclined to watch someone play a video game for the personality of the person playing the game, and by doing so inspires their appreciation of that game. Like if I was just to watch someone play a game and there was no, it was just, I'm just watching them walk around and doing the thing and I'm only hearing the audio of the game, I may not have the same visceral experience to hearing my new best friend from somewhere else in the world who I watch regularly experiencing the game themselves and the joy and the fear or whatever they're experiencing while playing. I now am vicariously feeling that. I just think that's super fascinating because it's not something I saw growing up. So as an adult and seeing that this has become very popular, and especially right now with so many people at home, this has become such a major form of entertainment. Which I think we could just speak generally to it, but I really want to dive in, Jesse, to what you said about the community that is fostered by the person within that gaming community, and especially with when we don't see, traditionally, at least in my opinion, I've only ever seen cis straight white men as the face of gaming. Seeing more people streaming and more diversity in that pool of streamers who are becoming successful in that world. And I know I say this to a panel of individuals who all look like me. So I very much recognize the fault of both my setup and this question.
Acknowledged.
I will entirely acknowledge that. And I realize I like to add big thoughts into a room and then go talk about it.
Okay, I have thoughts. I have a lot of thoughts. So I think that it depends on a lot of it depends on the game. A lot of streamers choose a game or a small handful of games that they stream. And there is a whole facet of the streaming community that is shooting games and war games and stuff like that. And I have not spent a lot of time in those communities, but they, I just feel like it depends on the game and it depends on the person who's streaming the game in terms of what kind of community it is that they want to build, whether it's one of great things or one that just wants to I don't know, shoot the shit, I guess. I just the only communities I know about are ones that they kind of blossom into their own thing off stream. They become this whole other piece of the streamer that exists alongside of them. And that can be a big responsibility if you choose to allow that to happen around you as a personality, I think.
Yeah. I'll kind of say with that, building, why do people watch streamers, right? And we know basically the 5 big reasons that people watch streamers, and it goes into a lot of the things that Jesse said. People watch streamers because of entertainment, because of affinity, or they want to have a perceived relationship with either the streamer or that community. They find it motivating. They find it educational. And a lot of times that goes into competitive gamers too, right? You're I'm going to become better by watching this person. And then I always miss one of them because I got relational on here twice. I always have to write it down. But I'm missing one. But so you're so right, Jesse, and that people when you are looking for a community on Twitch or when someone's trying to build one, you're looking for, just like you do in any other community, right? Just like we do with theater here in the Triangle area, we're looking for folks who are, you should be into theater, right? That's probably a good starting place for that one.
Good start.
Yeah, it's a good start. And then you you can even like keep finding your folks even from there, right? Yeah, and it's really incredible. And you're also right. It can be a lot of pressure to build an entire community that just keeps going without you. And also, to your point, I think that's like a really big thing that so many streamers do really well, is that while the community is a lot of times like based on that one person or that one channel, it's so much more than that, right? Because you have so many mods helping out. You have people who aren't even mods. They're just like in that stream every single day or in the Discord every single day building it.
Discord. Discord.
I love
For anyone who
Discord.
doesn't know, Discord is like a chat sort of, like, it's basically like an internal tool where people can build channels.
It is the program that never sleeps. These
It's
people.
true.
24/7.
24/7. I've got Discord pings. But basically, it's a way for someone to kind of create a place where their community can share ideas with each other, and it really does start to branch out into these like microcosm communities within other communities within other communities. Because I know I'm in a couple Discord channels, and I'm just always like, "Whoa, what's happening?"
Yeah, I had no idea. You want to talk about a crash course?
Yeah.
Thing?
Same.
I was like, "What the heck?"
Yeah.
I'm constantly telling people, I'm like, look, you could try to email me, or you could add me on Discord. Come on down.
Yeah, no joke. It's crazy. It never stops. It is all day and all night. It is crazy.
I wake up in the morning, I've got like 20 Discord messages from this, just one Discord channel. I'm like, guys, it's 3 a.m.
I have
go to bed.
I mute it. I can't do it.
Yeah.
I'm a no notifications guy. I can't deal with it.
Smart way to live. Yeah.
Sounds like I'm in the minority because I don't watch that much streaming things. The little bit that I have done is I really like watching like creatives and artists that I follow who also really like video games. And there's a real humanizing side to it where I'll take like a fantasy sci-fi writer like N.K. Jemisin who really loves video games, and it's so nice to see someone who's so brilliant that I admire so much as a writer, and then I'll watch like, oh wow, she's just as crappy at these like Grand Theft Auto stuff as I am. Like she'll flip the car off the road and like scream laughing as it like falls into the reservoir, and I'm like, the author of Broken Earth just flipped a car in that game. That makes me feel so happy.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's a unique form of voyeurism. To do like to see specifically streaming gaming versus like if you are just you and your friends playing, because it is both a glimpse into someone's personal world, or at least how they think. Because like when you watch someone game, you see how they like to problem solve, their particular style of problem solving, their particular way of reacting to certain stimuli. If anything happens in their personal world that suddenly is interfering. But are you laughing at the word stimuli?
No, I'm just thinking about. You're right. I mean, it's good. Yes, all of that. Keep going. Keep talking.
Okay, I'll just keep going. But it's so interesting because there's a level of humanism, like human interaction, that it specifically exists from watching us consume something else, like watching us watch someone consume something else. That is different than like reality TV or other forms of supposedly voyeuristic art. That has a different staging to it. Do you think that as we continue to see like Twitch streamers and other gaming streamers on different medias, I know like Facebook has their own gaming system streamer now. Do you think that it will become like other voyeuristic forms of art where it'll start to become more staged, that it won't have the same authentic human relationship that other systems do?
I think it'll be, more like television, where there are just some channels that have that, because there already are some, right? There are some channels that that just kind of do have that scripted element already, and that's both like for art and like just chatting, and people are like planning bits to do while they play a video game. But I don't think it'll like take over as like the only thing, because hopefully more and more people keep streaming.
Yeah.
So it just never stops.
Yeah. I think that if anything, I think that it would be, I don't know if scripts would work themselves into gaming streamers so much as things like television or reality television or like bigger YouTube style series or things like that will start kind of like scooping up some of the more like prominent gaming streamers and start like building on content that they're already creating. Because it's also in how you are using the game. So, like when Pablo was doing Animal Crossing, they had all kinds of stuff outside of Animal Crossing the world, like games that you could come compete on, and they would stream like Who Wants to Be a Billionaire, where like Pablo would just ask trivia questions. So it becomes like you become a person that's creating extra art around the thing, that like someone that sees that could be like, oh, we could turn this into something and put it on like a bigger channel or something like that. So I think it will be more of that dipping down in rather than like infiltrating the system, as it were.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say, because I've watched Pablo's stream quite a few times, and that is 100% because of you, because it pops up and I'm like, ooh, I want to see what's happening. Is that there's a unique voice in that they are also like a drag queen. They're also a performing artist themselves. And so they have performance art sitting on art, but then also is seeing community. And I personally love that. I think that's brilliant. So I will 100% promote Pablo too. But I find that that's really, it's unique because the community that is fostered from that individual is the foundation of how that community will engage in the art. Because I will speak only for myself, that as someone who identifies female, I didn't game because I didn't see many women gaming when I was younger, but especially I didn't like the way I was treated from those when I was a kid who claimed gaming as their lifeblood. I was mocked, ridiculed, belittled, made to feel small, made to feel stupid for not understanding a pop culture reference that was specific for gaming. But I mean, now I'm in my 30s and I'm coming into gaming now, and it's obviously a very different world from when I was, 7, 8, 9. But I know that that's probably still true, that there's still communities that are built around gaming that still contain a lot of that negative, toxic energy. And I wonder, because gaming is such an unusual system of both art and design and consumption, where do the responsibilities lie? Obviously, if a streamer is streaming, they're building their community, but if the company that the game they're playing is also creating some kind of toxic energy with how they develop their games, how they treat their employees, how they treat their community, who ends up becoming responsible for the energy that is given to that art?
That is a thorny question.
Listen, I am nothing but deep, thorny questions tonight, apparently.
Yeah, it's like you mentioned like the production side of making the games too, and how they treat their employees, and that's been something that's been a problem in the gaming industry for a long time. I mean, Jesse mentioned that his spouse Eddie and I used to work together, and we both stopped working for the same company at the same time when we all when 80% of their workforce got laid off because they ran out of money and then didn't tell us until the payday didn't come. It's just that was years ago, and sadly, these kinds of things are still happening. Like the scale of the games are getting bigger and bigger, and you need a bunch of a young, enthusiastic, usually male, but not always, people that can put off having families or lives outside of their gaming careers in order to make the thing. Because it's just there's a lot of work involved with the design, with the programming, with the writing, with all of the audio and everything that goes into it. And so I think it's something that the gaming industry has not figured out a great way of solving. I mean, on some level, you're getting it with some studios that are making smaller scale games, like the Life is Strange 2 came up earlier. I think the crew over there works pretty hard to make sure that their studio is a safe, inclusive space where employees' schedules are respected and everything. But I also would be very surprised if no one worked unpaid overtime to make those games, just because when you're trying to hit like a release date, a lot of hours go into that, and it's an industry that really thrives so much on enthusiasm and underpaying people that I'm not sure they've figured out a better model to make that other than like keeping the studios small and making sure that everybody volunteers to do it.
It's so funny how much this aligns with all art, isn't it? And the only other thing that I want to add, and it kind of goes into toxicity where we see it really everywhere, right? It is kind of our individual responsibility to do what we can about toxicity. So, for example, if we are the streamer, right, we have a lot of power in that situation. But if we're a mod, we still have a lot of power, but ultimately not as much as the streamer, right? And this is just the example that I chose. But fighting toxicity where we can, and also understanding when the values don't align with our values, right? It goes back to that like affinity. Yeah. It's hard to make a game when all of a sudden you don't have employees, as like a random example.
And like the trouble of like when our values don't align with the people that are playing the game. I mean, there's a responsibility there, but it's something that fascinates me as an artist, because art is about being inclusive of different viewpoints and lifestyles and all kinds of things like that. But there's definitely a turd in the punch bowl kind of like phenomenon where it's like sometimes you let somebody in that like, you know, you want to be inclusive, but you're like, I don't want to include you because nobody else is having fun when you're here.
Yeah, that's very tough. And that's a very tough situation to be in. And I mean, especially when you have a community that forms around a specific person that really grows. I mean, keep remembering. Well. So when
Pablo streams, clearly,
you have to. They now they're playing all new story games and stuff. It's great. So anyway, so when I started watching Pablo was in March, and they had just kind of come over from Twitch, and they where they like found the toxicity to be very real and very, very strong and targeted towards them because they were doing drag on stream, and because they're a drag queen in Australia, and that's what they did, and that was kind of their like thing. Longtime gamer as well, like lifelong. And then so they came over onto Facebook Gaming and started gaming there, and started on Animal Crossing, and then just kind of like. You know, when I joined the Facebook group, there was 60 some odd people in it, and now there's like 2,600. So, and that was from March to now. So, and then the Discord has got, you know, so the community that forms around it, and how people work themselves in and out of it, and people that are prominent and not, and they like there's this ebb and flow, this like kind of constant living, breathing thing that exists alongside that you have to like work with on the daily, of like the people in the community and the things that they do and how they're influencing everyone else. It's like a whole other little tiny weird online country.
Yours in particular is a very international country too.
It is very international. I mean, they live in Australia, but they have very regular viewership in the UK, very strong viewership in the UK, and very strong viewership in North America, and that is like their big viewership base. And part of the reason, and Canada, and part of the reason is because when they're streaming at their nighttime, which was originally their 9 p.m. In Australia, which was our 7 a.m. So it was this whole like market of streamer that wasn't streaming. Like people weren't streaming Animal Crossing at 7 a.m. in America, you know? So like people just started watching, and then like it just kind of all happened. I just started watching, and all of a sudden,
Same.
I was like, I did for the last
I was a temp, and I had my coffee, and I was like training, and I was watching at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. It's amazing. Like, it's just amazing how one person, like really one person, supported by those that love them, can really like do this thing. When I mean, it's just I had never even considered it a possibility. You know, like as a human being, I was like, this is a story I've never heard before.
I love that. I do love that.
I mean, and I agree. Like, streamers set the tone for how their community is going to interact with each other, interact with the streamer. And as the streamer, you have the responsibility to put the right moderators in place who share at least similar enough viewpoints to where they can be the ones that manage everything when you can't manage. You talk about people like Ninja who have like hundreds of thousands of viewers. He can't manage that. Like, I've watched some of his just to watch, and like the chat's just flying through. It's way too fast. It's the moderators. But I also think that it depends. The platforms themselves have some say in this.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Streaming on Twitch, you know what I'm talking about. There are the TOSs are set in place, and then some choose not to enforce them in the way that they should be enforced. And that can kind of mess things up as well. So I think it probably puts a little bit more responsibility on the streamer to try to handle things. And it gets messy when you start bringing in the platform as well.
Yeah, I mean, I know recently Twitch was like DMCA takedown notices left, right, and center because of somebody had music in the background from 4 years ago, and suddenly their channel disappears after years of streaming. That's been a whole debacle.
Right, randomly banning people.
Well.
No, not at all.
Nope. And I mean, complicated, of course, because like, you know, it's definitely a little bit of the platform, Twitch for sure, not handling that well. Also, music companies, admittedly being straight up greedy, let's be honest. And then also just like an outdated law. Like, that law was made before streaming existed.
Yeah, I mean, I work for a online company, so DMCA takedown is a very real thing that comes through the pipe. Yeah, and obviously I could go to a whole tangent about that. The legal side of it, but I can also go on a whole tangent about freedom of speech and where does that line draw, and I don't want to go down that tangent. But I think then kind of what was being mentioned before was about the companies themselves building these games and kind of the toxic workspace. Obviously, for anyone who doesn't know, because I'm a fight and intimacy director, boundaries and other conversations, I'm very passionate about changing how theaters and other artistic communities handle the treatment of their artistic individuals, especially because I know, at least for those of us who have been actors, we know kind of how little we are cared for in the process, but how much is expected of us to just say yes and keep going, and the power dynamics that exist within there. I'm interested to hear anyone's thoughts on how communities are going to continue to change, especially while we're still all in this kind of nexus of shelter in place and other confined, spaces. What do you think is going to happen kind of to the future of just community in general? Obviously where gaming is kind of what we're circled around, but really kind of what it means to be in a community of like-minded individuals. I ask the big questions. I'm so sorry. I just
don't always want to be the first person to like jump. I mean, like, if I always have something to say, I just like want to like give the floor before I just like start.
Jesse, no. Never mind.
So I think that's one of the reasons why, at least in my opinion, streaming and streaming games has become a very prominent thing in the last 9 to 10 months to people who kind of like knew of the world as it existed like out in the ether, but had never really like experienced it as a consumer. And so I feel like it's going to open the door to a lot of people who will, once all of this kind of like gets over the hump and we figure out what's next after all this, will want to probably try to keep this kind of content around, I would imagine, because it has done so much for them right now that I want to believe that people will want to keep that around with them for future.
And Mickey, I know you're in a unique position because you're also a generator of community, especially in this area.
Oh,
and I wonder...
with Twitch Raleigh.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, it's like we're still going to keep growing either way. It's almost, I mean, of course, it was tough when in-person events stopped, but admittedly, part of the reason that I started streaming was because like I saw a huge opportunity for virtual events for so many reasons, for accessibility and for just straight up people don't have to come to North Carolina to see a show. So that said, I think all of these communities are only going to keep growing, and they're also going to keep finding their audiences, keep like perfecting everything.
Mm-hmm.
For streaming, it's an exciting time, all things considered. I cannot wait to invite everyone who has just started streaming to come to like when we're back an in-person Raleigh community meetup powered by Twitch. Like it's gonna be so precious. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I mean, gaming's not going away. It's a billions of dollar a year industry. And I think it's only going to grow from there. So that's going to draw more and more people into that community, into the gaming industry. So yeah, I think it's just going to continue to grow from here. I don't see a true end in sight unless something drastic happens.
Well, I mean, something drastic did happen. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Inverse drastic, where it's
it
drives all this outside, I guess.
I'm sorry for saying that out loud. That was
no.
It was inside.
Even when I said we're in the middle of a pandemic, so
it's a very, I mean, obviously within any of our lifetimes, we've not experienced this particular situation.
Mm-hmm.
So I've just been very fascinated to see how people adapt and how much art centers around people's ability to stay connected to the world when they feel so isolated from it. But gaming in particular has been such a unique boom in this world of creating community through this particular form. I know that Mickey has to step away soon, and I don't want to take away any of your valuable, precious time, but I did want to, because we kind of went from gaming to art and then went straight into gaming as community. So we did that. But I wanted to kind of close out the evening with a conversation about gaming as inspiration for other forms of art. Obviously, we see a lot of adaptations of games into film. And I will call Alan out. Yeah, I'll call Alan out that I have personally been in plays in which Alan has written that was centered in gaming worlds. And
it was so good.
Thank you, brother.
But I think it's such an interesting thing because it's such a unique platform in which to develop other art from. And I would consider streamers are developing their own art as inspiration from the games they play. Certainly, playing D&D, which Larry and I have been doing on stream, we're taking a system, but we're building all of our own stories out of just a basic set of rules. And so I just kind of wanted to know if anyone had any thoughts about gaming as inspiration for other forms of art.
I do, but if Mickey has to go, I don't want to like go on a tirade. And
No, I want you to go on a tirade, though. Look, all I was going to say is that I love She Kills Monsters. That's it. It's like one of my favorite plays in the whole world.
I literally got flown to Nebraska once to choreograph that play. I love that play with every fiber of my soul. I've done it like twice here in Raleigh, so
it's so good.
It's so good. It's so good.
Yep. But yeah, I love this whole part of the conversation is gaming as inspiration, because it's kind of funny. There's been the industry, like Larry mentioned, is so huge that it's kind of obvious that people would try to adapt games into like movies or shows or whatever else, and they haven't always been that great. And I think as an artist that likes to write in that world, like I did with Everscape and with Not Afraid, the one plays that Tara was involved in and was so great in. I like playing around with the mechanisms of gaming and how they would apply to like a real world context. And so, like, you know, for example, like one script I kind of outlined out and then wrote like the first scene of was playing around with what if online dating was gamified, and so you got like achievements based on like, you know, like your ability to successfully hook up with people from different backgrounds or whatever else. And so I wrote this I started writing this very dystopic, dark comedy about like these like 3 female martial artists that were like sleeping their way around New York City or some major metropolitan area, and just trying to get all the gaming related achievements of just like hooking up with people from different backgrounds or in different contexts or whatever else. And yeah, working title was a Feminist Sex Scoreboard. So look for it in 2022 or whatever I get around to finishing.
Alan Mahl. Oh, Alan Mahl.
I love that.
Yeah.
I have nothing more to say. No,
that was everything. We'll leave it there. Have a good
No,
night.
I mean, I think that I think, and this is, I'm like literally not just saying this to blow smoke, because I don't appreciate that as a thing, but like, I think that what Alan did with Everscape was just like so smart in how they presented to you like a thing that you thought was going to be this one thing, and then it kind of like shifted and started to turn into this other thing. But then it was like so well crafted that the journey itself was like the thing. It didn't really like matter where it went. Like it was just really fun and exciting. And I think that what the key is that I think that Alan was able to accomplish with that, and what I think that makes successful adaptations, is you just have to like speak to the truth of what the story is about. And you know, that circles right back to the thing that we try to do in theater all the time, which is to just tell the truth. And so if you just tell the truth of the story, the way in which you tell it can be whatever works the best. And I think that's what's exciting, is the idea that this could spawn new works of art that kind of like mimic and mirror what we've seen is kind of exciting. It's fun.
It's like you said, it's the human experience and the human truth. It doesn't matter whether you're, you know, doing a play or if you're in like some sort of digital format, like I was trying to depict in Everscape. It's still real people doing something that matters to them, that they have feelings attached to, that like, you know, surprises them and everything. And well, yeah, I'm happy to hear that it resonated. That's it was, like you said, tell the truth.
I mean, it's still one of my favorite things I've ever done.
Yeah,
and I only played at female NPC number 2. I had 8 whole lines.
You worked the hell out of some of that weaponry, though.
Listen, I know what my focus is. But I think that's really interesting too, because it's like the whole reason we've been, you know, there's been such a boon in streamers playing games, is that truth, that authentic personality that comes through in the game. What makes successful inspiration art based on gaming tropes is the humanity of it all, and those things that make someone feel about that person or that moment, rather than just the mechanics of the medium. Because I know for me, like I've seen probably most of my gaming knowledge came from the consumption of like film and TV that was inspired by, and a lot of it fell flat for me because it was so focused on the mechanisms of the game, or the spectacle of the elements of the game, as opposed to the reason people love this game is because something happens and it devastates you, or it like elates you, like something like your soul changes from the moment something happened and you were there either directly or indirectly making it happen. So I guess I don't know where I was going with that train of thought. It just left me when I started doing thumb movements. They were a foreign concept to me. So I guess I wonder if there's specific games that y'all have seen or played during this time that you would hope would inspire some other forms of art because of whatever it is about that game that kind of does something for you. I know that I can actually speak to this. I really love the Mass Effect games, and specifically because of what you do in the first game impacts what happens in like the third game. And for me, I don't know how to play it very well, but I love watching it for the specific element of knowing that like one choice changed everything for every character that you came across, and some people became friends, but if you were to go back and play that game again, they might be your enemy. And that's how I feel about D&D in particular, because there's so much agency in the gameplay for the people playing the game. But for me, I don't know how it could be done, but I would love to see creative art come out of that particular piece.
Yeah.
That's my 2 cents.
I'm gonna... go ahead.
No,
Mickey, you go first. You go first.
Okay, I was
do.
going to name two before I jet. One, Undertale. I don't know if anybody's ever played Undertale. It's just not what you expect.
Yeah.
That's all. And the music is so good. Undertale, and then the other one I typically like to tell people about is that I just think is art in and of itself, and like it inspires art and does all those things, is Doki Doki Literature Club.
Oh, I've heard of that one and never played it, but yeah.
Yeah, I bet you heard of that one. You think it's cute, but
Doki Literature Club?
Yeah.
I'm literally taking notes right now. I'm like, ooh, tell me.
It's wild. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to follow up with all of you and be like,
what was
hello.
Undertale and Doki Doki?
Doki Literature Club.
Okay, I will check out the video after to see what you all said. But I'm gonna go for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it. Everyone's like taking a second to write their notes.
Yeah, I'm right. Good. I got
it. When you were talking about games that had you were talking about like the emotional resonance. One game that I go back to, and it's a fairly recent one, well, a couple years old now, but it's Red Dead Redemption 2. Because what's great about Rockstar is they don't churn out games every year. Like Red Dead Redemption, it took I think like 7 years between the first one and the second one. Like they took their time to make the game. And for one thing, it played really well, but it was so well done with the voice acting, the way that they got the camera angles and just the way they shot it, the music, the story, everything. And there's just this following of a bandit that coming to the end of his life and just seeing how he weighs the things that he's done against like trying to do this one last good thing. And it's just so well done. I cried at the end of it. Like it was that good of a game. And then I think of like as far as movies go that are based on games, the only good one I really can think of is Clue, because it's Clue.
Yeah. The one I want to talk about is one of the ones that I mentioned is one of my favorites of all time. It's a war game called Spec Ops the Line, and the thing I love about this one is it starts out like so many of these like prototypical Call of Duty type games where you're like leading an elite team of commandos in to bring back this like rogue commander that is like gone like AWOL and all this stuff. But the game, it plays on the motifs of like what you do in war games, which is you shoot people and like you want to get as many kills as you can. And there's this great moment when you find this like this cannon that shoots like white phosphorus, like some like awful like chemical weapon, and there's all of these enemy troops like down below you, and you have like 3 guys on your team. So you think to yourself in the game, you're like, oh, well, I have to use this like awful weapon to kill all the bad guys, and that's the only way that I can like get past this part. And so you start playing it, and then it clicks into like arcade mode where you just see like just thermal images of all these people, and you're blowing them up with this like cannon and everything else. This big pack of people in the back, and you're just flipping to like Galaga, like you're just shooting as many as you possibly can. And then when the smoke clears and you and your guys go down there to like go through the area, you realize there was this big band of civilians that the guys you thought were the bad guys were protecting in the back, and the gamer has then been implicated in a war crime. And it's like, the game it's not a feel-good game. It's not trying to make you feel like, go home and like, laugh about it. But you have this moment of just sobriety in a video game that you paid like $50 for. And you're like, oh, I was expecting to just kind of get some catharsis and blow off some steam. I now just got a really huge, this is why war is awful and makes monsters out of ordinary people. Like,
right.
And there's an artist in theater that we talk about a lot in school called like Bertolt Brecht. He loved like theater that made you like kind of like mirror to yourself and realize like, oh, I've been implicated by this. Like I don't like where this story is going because I see myself in these characters, but they're awful.
Yeah,
the game did a great job of doing that, and it's hilarious that it's a game that objectively makes you feel like garbage, but as an artistic message, you're like, wow, like I've never felt that way from just watching a war movie. I'm just like, wow, I was implicated in this.
right.
Yeah, because your hands were in it. Like it's different to be like if I rewatch I can't Marlon Brando. It takes forever. If they're on the river. What movie am I thinking of?
Now?
Yeah, it's like it's different to watch Apocalypse Now and be like, wow, war can really mess someone up. But then, 2 hours, no, like 2-3 hours into like committing to pushing the button that sends the trigger, that sends the explosion, and suddenly being like, war changes people and you're not a good person because of it. And now you're sitting there like existential crisis with controller. You're like, huh. Yeah,
you're right. Wow.
You're right. Wow.
Like, it's hard to make you laugh, but the whole game was trying to be a 21st century version of Apocalypse Now. Like the guy you're going to capture is named Colonel Kurtz or something, or Colonel Conrad or something like that. So it's doing the whole motif like that perfectly.
It's on the nose. I love that. Yeah. So I used to date someone who played a lot of video games, and that was like my only consumption of video games. There was another one that really messed with me. The Last of Us. That's what it was called. Yeah.
Oh God. Like
that one really messed with me.
A buddy of mine sold me on playing that one by saying, like, Alan, this game's shit in my heart, and so you need to play it too. So
James, Pablo just played that, I think, recently.
Yeah, The Last of Us. Yeah,
the second one
no
just came
spoilers
out.
to the ending for anybody who hasn't watched it yet or is going to play it. I also used to work at a GameStop.
Oh yeah,
for you.
With no knowledge of gaming. I would like to point that out.
You were just like,
they would ask me that, like, well, I just finished playing this. What's your opinion on this? And I'd be like, let me check. And then I would just go to somebody else who worked there. I was like, they like this. What's something that's like that? Or I would Google similar to. Because I didn't know. I don't know. Yeah. Have you seen the new this game that was like FIFA soccer 15? And like, that's not at all what I was asking about. That's fine. But yeah, I mean, like, and I think similarly, it's because it's such it's a story that you are actively participating in, but there's really no good choice. And you got to make one of them, and you got to deal with the choices you're making. So by the end, when you realize, oh, this is what I was working toward. My heart hurts, and I don't like the choices that are presented to me now. And I'm going to make a bad choice no matter what I do.
Familiar.
Yeah. But I was going to say, where it comes to like role-playing games, RPGs, those are someone wrote Frostpunk is a good game that's like Spec Ops, but the terrible things you end up doing aren't scripted at all. They're emergent based because they're just trying to keep your people alive in a bad situation. Ooh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, now I'm gonna go look up Frostpunk too.
Yeah, Chris, I just Googled that because I'd never heard of that game. So thank you for the tip.
Yeah.
I've
But
heard
yeah,
of it,
but for like I know for me, like RPG, like role playing games, and more of these like tabletop games, which
Mhm.
also have been seeing a resurgence in gameplay, also provide a very unique form of interactive storytelling, because other than either the fundamental functions of the game, so each of your characters can only perform certain types of tasks based on numbers and dice, or if you're following a specific story, like you're doing a dungeon crawl or something, other than the framework that sits there is no wrong way in essence to play, because the world is as big as anyone who's playing wants to make it, which I think is interesting, because I think video games and other gaming platform type of games do eventually you hit the limit of how far you can journey, because there's still a story that either has to be told, or even in an open world game, there's only so many places you can go before the designers haven't built a space to go yet.
Yeah.
And I think that one for me is really interesting. And as storytellers, I mean, I think we are all storytellers in this room in some form. What does that what does that do for like the creative storytelling element, to kind of have like this like little vessel you can play in, but for the rest of it, it's just be free.
Yeah.
I'll say this. So something that has become really popular on Twitch is people streaming themselves RPing within a community of, like, say, Grand Theft Auto or DayZ or whatever it is, Sea of Thieves. So they take this whole open world concept, and yes, there's gameplay, that there's rules they have to follow, but they kind of go outside of that and just kind of do their own thing. They live basically virtual lives within these video games and play with other people. And typically stuff like Grand Theft Auto, they have specific servers where people have actually modified them to be more geared towards role playing. But it definitely, it's just that open world sandbox type of atmosphere is kind of what gears that, what kind of invites people into doing those kinds of things.
Yeah, that reminds me of advice I got from a game like culture writer he said what he did whenever he played a game, that he liked the gameplay and the mechanics of it a lot, but he thought the story was complete garbage. He would skip all the cutscenes and make up his own story in his head. Because if he liked the the skateboarding game or whatever, but found the characters completely irritating, he would just like skip all the dialogue and just be like, yeah, my guy's actually I don't know, an avant-garde artist that decided to make it as a skateboarder, and then he's just earning money for this puppet show he's going to make. And so, like, it was just he did what you're talking about. He would just create his own thing in in a game to like make it fun for him when he didn't like the story.
Right. Yeah, and that's a big part of. I mean, that's a big part of it. I mean, that's the thing that keeps your community engaged, and that's what they end up coming back for. Is like, and it becomes like the inside jokes and the things that become the rapport between the streamer and the community with their streaming. Like I believe that a lot of it becomes that they are there to watch the person, and then secondarily they're there to watch the thing that they're streaming, because it doesn't, if the streamer is successful and doing the right things, I believe that it doesn't matter what the person is doing, the people are coming to watch the person, and they're going to make it enjoyable.
Agreed. Yeah.
I want to watch you play D&D. I've never watched it before.
Well, come and hang out with us. We stream on Mondays. It's lots of fun. And then we also now do the Sea of Thieves, where we RPG as our characters.
Yeah.
And because I have no ability to play video games, my character is a pretentious rich woman who decided she wanted to become a pirate because she did a puzzle with her brother. But she doesn't know how to do basic things like hoist sails or eat food. So that we can justify the fact that I don't know what I'm doing.
That's amazing. Yeah. Make it work for you.
Yeah, exactly. Into the RP world with the newish board game Gloomhaven. Oh yeah, I've heard of Gloomhaven, but I haven't.
I've played it. I have it. It's, for one thing, it's D&D board game edition, which means it has a steep learning curve. It took a friend of mine and I think 6 hours just to get some of the base rules down before we started playing, and then it took another 3 hours to play one scenario out because we still had no idea what we were doing. Then they come to find out, like 12 sessions later, we were still doing tons of stuff wrong because he played with people who actually knew what they were doing.
Oh my god!
Oh, yeah, it's intense. It's fun. It's a fun game, but yeah, there's some rules that are involved.
Yeah.
So I still have the hard time with the math when it comes to D&D. Like, all right, 2d8. I'm like, okay, how plus the thing and then the other thing. That sounds beautiful. Sorry, I was like, I'm also reading at the same time, and turns out I can't read and talk simultaneously. I learned my limits today. But I really wanted to thank you all so much, and Mickey, for hanging out and talking about this. And I really appreciate everyone's thoughtfulness and insights and love of either the games themselves or the communities that have been generated for these games. So I wanted to give everyone a moment to kind of either plug anything or speak to any concept that wasn't addressed that you really want to speak to, because I want to make sure that everyone feels like they've had the space to be heard tonight. So if anyone wants to start this train, by all means.
I'll start. So if you're looking for a fun stream you can watch every Monday through Friday, you can check out Pablo the Drag Queen on Facebook Gaming. New partner to Facebook Gaming. Wonderful
Congrats.
community. Yeah, big time. I mean, just started streaming in March and all of a sudden partner.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a very big deal for the less initiated gaming community.
It's the top tier. There's a lot of streamers on Facebook Gaming, but there are not a lot of partners.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it is rooted in, I believe, the message that they're putting out into the world. So you can find them on Facebook Gaming at Pablo Drag Queen. You can find them across the internet on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. At Pablo Drag Queen.
Yeah, and I will definitely say, if you haven't watched the game, if you haven't seen Pablo, like, honestly,
Drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, it was amazing. I'm more of a lurker stalker than an actual like active member of the community, which I feel like I need to change now.
Come on.
But yeah, and for me, it's really changed my whole look at gaming, because suddenly I was seeing someone who spoke to my values and the community that I love so much also doing a thing that I was nervous to try doing because I didn't think I would be able to do it. So I really, it's A+, 10 out of 10. Would recommend.
They will love to hear that. I'm going to make sure. I'm going to send, they're asleep right now, but I'm going to send this to them. Sure.
Please do. Please. I would fangirl so hard.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Larry Allen.
I'll go ahead and plug our thing. We stream, starting in the new year, we're streaming every Monday, doing the Everwind Chronicles, which for the sweatshirt here.
Yeah, I got my art behind me.
That's right. I'm on this side right here. Inverted camera. I'm confused. But yeah, it's an actual play D&D show, all improv and story based D&D. So if you enjoy 6 people who barely know what they're doing and basically take the lesser of 2 evils every time,
We don't.
enjoy. Yeah, that's true. We take the worst option every time. There's no good option really. But we do that every Monday. We actually have someone who streams actually like literal art. She draws, and actually she's working on a character trailer for us, which is super exciting. But she does that on Wednesdays. Sims Art Corner, and then we've been a little consistent here recently, but we do a role playing within the Sea of Thieves video game. I think we call it Sea of Role Players. It's been a while.
Internally, we call it Sea of Idiots.
Yes, it is the Sea of Idiots stream because we play stupid pirates. But that's on Fridays, and we load all this up onto YouTube, and that's Happy Action Fun Times, our YouTube as well. So you can find us there, and Discord.
Of course, Discord.
Come join the
Discord. Yep.
I do not have a reliable Twitch channel. I have a Twitch account that I barely use, so I'm not invited. But yeah, follow me on Twitter at Mahlerballer. I apologize for all the taco-related posts that you're going to see on there.
Don't apologize.
Never apologize for
Are you
tacos.
kidding me?
Yeah,
Taco Tuesday is the greatest.
Remember, there's a reading of Feminist Sex Scoreboard coming up. You can find it on Twitter.
Also, yeah, Alan's Twitter game is strong. I do enjoy it, and I don't know anything about Twitter, but I know Alan.
I do enjoy it. All right. Tara, thank you so much for inviting us.
Tara, thank you so much.
I really appreciate it.
I really appreciate y'all saying yes. And I also wanted to promote, if for those of you in the community who know Pimpila Violet, she's a local artist. Larry actually became friends with her on Twitch before he realized that she and I were friends.
Yep.
But she also streams. She's been streaming for about a year now. And so there's a lot of like local theater actors, artists who are also engaging in this community. So especially for our local fans and our local friends out watching tonight, we do hope you'll support your local artists as well as the artists across the world, and definitely check out Pablo if you haven't. But yeah, thank you all. I really appreciate it.
Thank
This
you,
was
Larry.
so
Thank you,
fun.
Alan.
It's
And
fun.
Mickey.
It's nice to meet you guys too.
Yeah, nice to meet you as well. Thank you.
And for those watching, have a lovely evening. Stay safe. Get in trouble, the good kind of trouble. Drink your water. And come and hang out at RDU on stage. I'm sure there's going to be more wonderful things in the future. I wasn't given a little package to read at the end. So I don't know what is coming up other than I'm sure more great
It's going
things.
to be amazing.
Yeah, I mean,
100%.
Lauren has been hands down, providing us lovely local art access, and then
wonderful.
and I've been watching everybody who's been on here. Jesse, I see you. So thank you again. Have a wonderful night and take care.
Yeah. Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye.